Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're conditioned from childhood to look for a rescue. We grow up waiting for Rapunzel to let down her hair or for Batman to drop out of the sky and fix our bad decisions. But then we look at the actual world we live in. We see the very real smoke of political dissolution, violence, and fear clogging up the streets. And here is the terrifying paradox. Despite all that overwhelming chaos, if you scan the horizon, you won't see a bat signal. There is no superhero flying through the air to deliver us. No one is coming. Realizing that uncomfortable truth is the necessary first step to actually taking ownership of your own life. That realization leaves us with a stark choice. Do you run with the herd because it's comfortable, or do you risk standing out? If you choose to blend in, you might stay safe, but you'll eventually find yourself suffocating in an abyss of what-ifs. You end up living in the shadow of the choices you were too afraid to make. But maybe there's a drive inside you that suspects you could have a better career, a better marriage, a better community, if you could just push past your own insecurities. To escape that regret, you have to make a conscious, deliberate choice to leave the herd behind. You have to step into the deep discomfort of disruption. So if we know that playing it safe leads to regret, why is it so incredibly hard for human beings to consciously choose disruption? The answer sits inside your head. Deep in the brain's temporal lobe is the amygdala, an almond-shaped cluster that acts as our emotional memory center. Often the amygdala stores our past traumatic experiences as a toxic brew. When faced with a new risk, it dumps adrenaline into your system, triggering a primal urge to fight, flee, or simply freeze in panic. If you leave those memories unchecked, they create a mental traffic jam. They block the frontal lobe, the part of your brain responsible for logic and forward thinking, from making rational decisions. To become what we can call the conscious one, you have to declutter that mental attic. You have to process those past fears positively so you can choose courage instead of panic. Building a real legacy requires you to biologically override that default fear response and reclaim your ability to choose. History is actually full of people who successfully hijacked this exact biology. They felt the terror of the unknown, but they stepped into it anyway. Think of the biblical account of the Apostle Peter. He ignored the relative safety of the boat and the other 11 disciples to step out onto the open water. That same willingness to defy the environment pushed modern leaders to challenge the status quo. People who stood up against entrenched colonial rule, or the men and women who anchored the American civil rights movement, facing down unimaginable intimidation. We see it globally in the fight against apartheid. These were individuals who decided the potential reward of freedom heavily outweighed the extreme physical risk. None of these figures were superhuman. They had the exact same amygdala and the exact same stress response as you do, but they consciously chose to build a legacy rather than run away. You cannot be a disruptor and a conformist at the same time. The two are mutually exclusive. If you idolize the people who always play it safe, you are actively giving up your own potential to stand out or make any meaningful change. Now, stepping out of the boat is genuinely dangerous. You might lose your footing, get distracted, or face severe pushback from the people still sitting comfortably inside. But despite that risk of sinking, only the people who leave the safety of the boat ever earn the right to walk on water. True disruptive thinking requires making calculated, intentional changes to improve your community, your office, or your own behavior. It requires taking that rush of adrenaline your brain produces and, instead of panicking, using it as fuel to fight for a better reality. That empty sky represents a massive opportunity. We are the leaders and the heroes we have been waiting for. A legacy is never handed down from above. It is built the exact moment you think your way into disruption and finally claim your own power.
I was walking in the deep dark, looking for a spark.